Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with a requested video. Okay, in July I made this cover I made it so that I've got a travel version of my arty backgrounds that I can take so I can doodle. And just to prove it, oh, I can't prove it, where's it gone? I have started doing a little bit of doodling, so see I'm trying. It's one of my goals is to start doing doodling because it fascinates me. Anyway, so I've got a load of arty backgrounds in here that I've made. I've made my own traveller's notebook inserts, and then I used a Dyan Reaveley cover, which I'll show you in a moment. I painted this up. And what I'm going to do is, in the description box is going to be the link to the original video, because that way I'm not going to go into all of the details of where they come from, what the options are, the whole story behind doing it. It's in the video. I will touch on things that you probably need to know in this video, should you not want to watch the other one. Anyway, at the time when I bought the blank cover, and this is what the blank cover looks like, and it's called No Limits. It's a Ranger product, and it's of the Dylusions Dyalog range, and it's a white cover. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but when I bought this one, I bought a second one. Just I think what it was this was $9.99, and I think I needed to add £9 to my order at Art from the Heart to actually get free P&P. So I thought, why not? So basically, this only cost me a few pounds because I then saved on the P&P. And a lot of the subscribers from this video said, "Oh, can you show decorating the other one?" Yeah, why not? I need to decorate this one anywhere. It's just going to end up as something in my stash I'll never use otherwise. And they said, "Can I do it in a different colour scheme to the original one?" Absolutely fine. Well, this was cool colours, and this was warm colours. So I think this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on warm colours on the outside and maybe cool colours on the inside. So let's put this to one side. There was a little bit of prep work I had to do. So first of all, these are made of canvas, I believe, over card, or at least some sort of inners to give them rigidity. They will soften over time. They will actually, the colours will mellow down. They are designed to wear on the edges. So anyway, without going into that, what I've done is I've given this a whole covering of clear gesso. I don't know whether on the first one I used white gesso. I definitely put gesso. I'm going to take the closure out and we'll put it back in later, unless it doesn't go, and then maybe if I've got some other coloured elastic, I might make a new closure for this. Unsure at this point in time. The other thing I did on the previous one was I protected these from all of the paint, and the way I did that was I got a drinking straw. I got a paper drinking straw in this instance. Can you still buy plastic paint drinking straws? I don't know whether you can. So I'm just going to snip off the end so that it's roughly the same size as this. Now, I'm just going to cut this up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to be on there at the end. It's going to be taken off. It's literally just to protect those elastics a little bit. I don't mind paint getting on them as far as colour goes, but I wouldn't want the paint to actually maybe reduce their elasticity, should we say. So just open this up a bit with my thumb, and then I'm going to put both of those elastics within this. You can see I've done this once before. Last time I was struggling a bit with this, but this time I did it a bit quicker, says he famously. Right, once it's in there, I do need to seal it off a bit. I'm just going to get some lengths of this. Is just regular washi tape. I don't need to seal it all the way down, but I would like to seal it at maybe the top, the bottom, and maybe in the middle as well, just so that it doesn't start moving around. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a tab on here, just so I can lift it up and pick it up by this if I want. Every time you do something, and this is the second time I've done this, you learn something from the first time you did it, and it would have been beneficial if I'd have left tabs on the first one. Basically, it gives me some way to grip the book without grip the cover without gripping the entire cover if it's covered in wet paint. So right, so that's all the prep work I've done. I put that paper drinking straw there to protect the elastic. This little bit getting paint on doesn't bother me. I don't care if these eyelets end up not shiny. That also doesn't bother me. As I said in the original video, I don't normally use wet wipes unless wet wipes is the only thing that's good for it. And I believe that wet wipes are the perfect thing for doing these covers. However, the downside is that because this is a canvas, you tend to wear holes in your wet wipes quite quickly. So I use a little bit more than I probably should have done. Probably one or two more. I was expecting to do a whole cover in one, and there was nowhere to go to do that. I also have a small ceramic tile. Now, you've seen me with my big ceramic tile. I don't need the big one this time, just a little one. I've kind of pulled out these paints. Now, I will be altering and changing my mind as I go along because I'm not sure yet what I really want to do. I know I want to keep it reasonably light. I also have white paint here. This is a chalk paint and this is an acrylic. I've only grabbed this little bottle because there's just a little bit left in it, and if I can use it up, all the better. So I think my base colour is going to be my lightest colour. So this is Mustard Yellow by Arteza. It's a reasonably, it's a soft paint. It's not a heavy-bodied paint, and I'm only putting a little bit on my mat here. I'm going to give it a spritz, just that much, with my water bottle. This is just tap water in here, nothing special. I'm going to find a part of my wet wipe. I'm going to come in. I'm literally going to work this into the canvas. Now, I did learn a few things from my last attempt, which is, as I said, what we always do. And I will pass those along as I go. If there's one thing I really did learn, it was I didn't need as much paint as I thought I needed. A little bit goes a very, very long way with this process because of using a baby wipe. Also, I'm going to come along the edges to start with, just so that I don't see any raw edges in the finished piece. So hopefully those who saw the last video of this, well, I know you enjoyed it because you were kind enough with your comments to say that you did. It'd be nice if some of you have actually done some of these. If you have done, you can, if you're on Facebook, by all means tag me in Facebook. If you tag Ceri Griffiths Creative Designs, I will then see it. I'd love to see what you're doing. It's always wonderful to see what you've inspired in the world, or techniques being done that maybe you've passed on and shared. Okay, I think that's enough of that colour. You can see what I mean about the wet wipes getting destroyed, so just be aware that you'll go through a few wet wipes. Right, I think I want to add, what's this colour? Raspberry red. I don't use raspberry red that often because I quite like Tuscan red out of this paint range, so it'd be quite nice to have the warmth that raspberry actually offers. It is quite a pink-based red, and that's fine with me. A little spritz of water as normal. And I'm going to go into the places that I didn't go in with the mustard yellow. And I'm doing that on purpose because yellow and raspberry are going to create mud unless I'm very careful. So just coming in with this, I'm kind of working in 3 areas at a time. I do like working in 3s, and apparently the mind and the eye like looking at 3s. But if I felt there was another area on here that needed it, I would do it. Like, I actually think by here could probably do with some as well. I think this wet wipe is dead. So that's the basis for that. Let's get another wet wipe out. Now, I want to add a little lightness to this, which I'm going to do with the white after I've done most of this. But I am going to come in with this colour, which is violet blue, iridescent violet blue by Pebio or Pebio. Can never pronounce that name. Although I will find out this year, I promise. I'm going to a craft show that I know that they're going to be at, and I'm literally going to go up to the booth and ask one of them to pronounce it for me, because I'm not the only person who struggles with that name. Now, this has got a bit of a shimmer to it, It's got a lot of a shimmer to it too, actually, but I'm quite happy with that because it'll really make this, what am I trying to say, it'll warm this journal up a bit even more. It looks quite Barbie, doesn't it? Yeah, the Barbie movie's just come out apparently. Not seen it. Can't say it's on my playlist, but there you go. So that's given me the basis of that. Now I think I want to come in now, and as I said before, I want to blend with some white just to knock everything back. I don't mind there being colour on here. This colour will fade slightly when it dries. Am I still in shot? I am still in shot. But I still would like to knock this into the background a bit so that it actually does become a background, because all of the stuff that goes on top of it, of course, will be more of a feature. A little bit of a spritz of water on that. Going to use the same wet wipe. I wouldn't worry about that in this instance. Going to come in and just almost blend it through. So by doing little bits like this of the white, I'm kind of focusing on edges just so that I'm working them in and out, pushing and pulling as I would normally call it if I was working on a gel plate. Now some would probably say, well, Ceri, why didn't you leave white patches in the first place? There's a difference. When you're blending colours with another colour like this, it's a lot more subtle than if I left stark areas open. Now I'm probably going to use the background colours again when I work on the foreground. Let's fold this up so I'm just getting into those grooves a bit. So I think we're at the point, I'm going to leave that little bit of white there because I will use it. Actually, why don't I just touch it down and actually just add a few white patches around. Again, you're probably going, what the heck is he doing? He's just making visual texture. That's what he's doing. Right, so we've got the start of something happening there. Quite like the way that's going. Need to clean the hands up a little bit. Where's my cloth? So, right, we've got the basis of the colours down here now. Now, at this point, I'm going to start thinking about what colours to introduce. Now, I'm working with warm colours, which are the reds and the yellows and the purples, and depending on what purple it is, whether it's a blue-based purple or a red-based purple, it depends on how I pull them in, but I'm quite happy with this so far. Right, I was going to add this colour in, and I'm not sure yet whether that's the right choice. But I do think at this point I want to start adding in the layers of stenciled work. Now, I pulled out 3 collections of mine. This is the border collection. It's one large set, one small set. I pulled in Lazy Layers, which has got some nice shapes into it that I can use. And I pulled in Whimsical Whatnot, which I really love this stencil, and I don't use it enough, and I think that's going to be more of a feature stencil in this. So let's put those up there. Maybe let's have a look at some of these. Right, there's a big set and a small set, and they're both the same design. They're just a different scale. See, that's the large. I think I like that one. I think that's exactly the one I want to use. I think when I named that, I named that Railway Cars or something. I can't remember. I was having one of those moments where I was interested in naming things, let's say. Right, so if I want to put something onto here, I think I would like to reach for something more of a purplish colour. I'm thinking more of this, which is called Wild Violet. I would say it's warm, but I don't mind putting a cool on here now. If I want to add a contrasting colour, cool is probably where I would go. Now for the next bit, I'm going to be using a blending sponge on the end of one of these by Rangers. You could use just a cut of sponge and actually just dab on, dab off, and actually pounce the paint through. I could, but that's not what I'm doing here because I've got one of these blenders, so why not use it? So I'm just going to need to clean up my paints a little bit for a second. There you go, I don't want crumbs on it. Now, when you're using a stencil or a mask on a surface that's not completely flat, there is a really strong likelihood that you're not going to get crisp edges. So if crisp edges are what you're looking for, now is the time to decide on something else. So I'm going to come in, and I fancy putting this down here. And I want to put it down. I'm lining it up with the edges. Now I'm going to load up my sponge a bit. I don't want it overloaded. I'm just working that in. Just so I've got, and I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to rub that over there. I'm not looking for full coverage. I just want that sort of effect. Maybe we'll put a bit on the inside of this one. Just turn it around. Are you in shot? You are in shot. Barely, but you are in shot. A little bit there. Don't have to get a perfect representation. I quite like a couple of the blocks down here. Well, I must remember the front and back are not going to be seen at the same time, so I think I'd quite like a bit across the middle there. So little stencils like this are really useful because they don't have to be you use the whole thing all of the time. Just use elements of a smaller stencil. If you've got it, use it. So that's 3 on the front. I really think I want to put 3 on the back. Maybe just a couple down there with a fade out either side. So there you go, that started that off. There's quite a bit of paint there. What I'll do is I will try and save that bit of paint out of my arm's reach. And then I'm hoping that should I need it for another project, I can use it when I turn the camera off. Right, I'm done with this colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bit of kitchen towel, kitchen paper, whatever you know it as. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to squish this down to remove the majority of the paint from this. Now, in an ideal world, you would have several of these little sponges, and I do have several of these little sponges. However, I want to show that you can actually do it with one and one alone. Once I've got the majority of the paint out, I'm going to get a fresh baby wipe and just squish it down. And what this will do is it will activate any of the paint in there, and I can clear it off around the sides because I don't necessarily want this colour next. In fact, I know I don't want this colour next. Alternatively, if you've got time to wait, you could just take the sponge off, wash it, let it dry, and then use it again once it's dried. So, right, I think that's enough of that being cleaned off because the next colour is probably going to be a little bit dramatic anyway. Right, so that's where I got up to. Now, is there anything I want to add into this? Now, I'm thinking, because I tend to use bubble wrap a lot, I'm thinking whether I might use that instead of bubble wrap. This, by the way, is one stencil, and you can ask for it to be pre-cut. It comes in 4 different designs. So there's squares, is that hexagons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hexagons, like broken bars, and these are bubbles or dots, and I've done it so you've got one strip, one patch there, one strip there. I think I'm going to leave this one out, and I fancy going directly onto this one. Now, I'd quite like to use yellow on this. I'm liking the whole warmth this is offering. Right, I've got cadmium yellow hue. Now, I'm slightly concerned that when I add this to this, I'm going to get a mucky yellow. If that happens, I'm not going to use that sponge. I will just walk away from that sponge and use something else, because I'm not going to mess up the cover for the sake of just trying to not clean my sponge. So just a little bit of spritz of water. Just see what this turns into. I don't mind that. That's okay. It didn't get too messy. Right, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to do areas. Now, the background is already yellow or has got yellow in it, so I don't expect this to actually show up hugely, but it shows up enough for me to give interest, and I'm turning the stencil around because when I do the back I can get different areas of this. This is a great one if you doodle, guys. Well, that's why it's called Whimsical What Doodle Shapes, because what you can do is if you stencil this onto maybe an art journal page, you can then come in and use these shapes as a basis for your doodling. So I'm just going to take up some of these shapes up to the edge so it doesn't look like I just plonked something right in the middle. Let's put a little bit of this down here. So subtle, I like it. Right, now I'm going to come in and I want to add maybe, do I add some white? If I add white, I'm going to definitely need another one of these. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause the video. I'm going to dry this, probably with a hairdryer, and then I'm going to come in and I'll give this a wash so I'll have a clean one to start with, because I really don't think using white is going to be a good idea with this colour sponge. So bear with me for 2 seconds, guys. So here we are back again. This is reasonably dry. It's not thoroughly dry, but it's reasonably dry. Hit it with the hairdryer. Managed to use up that spare bit of paint on another arty background in my art journal, which is totally fine. And I had time to look and think about this. I wanted the yellow to be more in your face yellow, and it tended to be blended out into an orange. So I'm going to show you how to sort of adjust or change that, because I'm going to come in and I'm going to give myself what I wanted, which was yellow instead of this orange. Now I like the orange, but it's not what I was intending, so I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to bring in some of my white acrylic paint. If I can get the lid off this thing. Oh, that's why the lid's sticking, is it? Wow, that's a goober and a half. So a bit of white down here, and I intended using white later anyway, so that wasn't a problem. I did manage to wash my sponge and I gave it a bit of a blast with the hairdryer as well, so that's ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use exactly the same stencil I just did, and I'm going to line it up so it's where it previously was, or as close to. I'm not going to stress about it. I'm going to work some of that white paint into my blending brush, and I'm going to come over and I'm going to come in now and put white where that orange ended up. Doesn't have to be in exactly the same place. I don't mind actually if it's in a different area slightly, because then I'll have more than one load of interest on here. So just going to come in, take out some of that orangeness. And then once that's dry, I'll put yellow over the top. Now I did come down, I thought I did. I put another little bit down there, because I want to keep this cover quite light and fresh. So that's how we did. Popped it over there. About there. Again, just come in. As I said, I'm not desperate to get it in exactly the same place, but I would like a bit of the same areas done, so I've not got too much conflicting. And I know I put a little bit up here, didn't I? I'll give us this bit. Can you see? You can see, right. So now when I come to put the yellow on, the yellow is actually going to show up really white. I want that a bit cleaner over there. That's just, where did it come from? Here. Not so much cleaner as a bit bolder white than it is there. It's looking a bit muddy for my liking. Now, when we put a contrasting colour on top of this, of course, at the end to finish it off, it's going to pump this up a bit. There we go, that's better. That's more that I was looking for. Just, there's always a way to rectify things. It may not be the obvious thing to start with, but there's always a way to rectify things. Like if I'd have messed this cover up and didn't like it at all, I could have just painted the entire thing white and start again. Okay, I'm okay with that. That's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause you again. Sorry, back and forth, I know. But I'm going to pause you again. I'm going to get this really dry so I can then put into it the yellow I wanted to put in there in the first place. So here I'm back again. It's now dry to the touch. As I said, it's probably not dried all the way through to the core. Doesn't need to be at this point. I just wanted it dry enough so when I put the yellow paint on here on these areas, it's actually not going to pick up the paints underneath it. So I'm going to go back in with exactly the same paint I had before, which is the cadmium yellow deep hue, because that's the colour I truly wanted. And I'm not going to use a blending tool this time. I'm actually going to come in with this little bit of a sponge. This is just packaging sponge that I picked up. Now I want to make sure that the back of my stencil hasn't got wet paint on it anywhere, just because I don't want it sticking down. Now I'm going to come in, and what I want to do is I want to change these white shapes into shaded or blended areas. So I'm just going to pick up my paint a little bit. I'm going to dab off, can you see me? I'm going to dab off quite a lot of the excess, and then I'm going to come in, I'm going to pick up one side or another of the design, just so that it blends it across. I mean, I could go around the edges, I could do anything I want, just so I don't have solid blocks of yellow. I have interesting areas of shading. As I said, you could come in with a permanent marker. Apparently that's what Dyan Reaveley's done, although I've never seen Dyan Reaveley do one of these, because apparently the instructions for doing it are behind a paywall, and I'm not really going to pay to see an instructional video on something I've kind of worked out how to do myself. So I'm just going to blend that up. See, we're getting, I mean, can I lift this up to show you without him? See, I'm getting a nice blending effect going on here. And then I'll come back in afterwards and then blend in the opposite direction with the white. So just trying to put some interest in, just because there's going to be nothing else on here. Well, there's going to be a couple of probably dots or stripes or blocks or something I'm going to add into this. I haven't yet decided that yet because I haven't seen the overall effect. So right, so I've got some yellow. I'm going to turn my sponge around. I'm now going to pick up some of the white, and I'm going to blend over the top of that again. And what that will do, because the yellow is actually still wet or damp, it's going to blend those edges together. If my fingers don't keep sticking to the stencil. And a little bit goes a long way, guys. A little bit goes a long way. And just keep coming back and forth until you're happy with the effect you're getting. Because as you can see, I'm now getting a nice blended effect up here. As I said, there is my intent to put a contrasting colour in, and probably almost definitely there'll be black on this, because black's one of my favourite things to make other colours pop. See, I'm liking that much more at the moment. How did I do this? I did it down here, didn't I? Pick up a little bit of yellow. Pop that in there, pick a little bit of the white, bring it in as well. What was this little bit down here doing? Where did you come from, mister? Oh, there it is. It's like some giant jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? A little bit of white on that as well. Now remember, you can always repaint, which is what I'm doing here. I'm actually just bringing it back to more of my concept of what I wanted it to look like with the colour I wanted. So nothing is a mistake, it's a learning curve. I didn't think ahead. I should have thought, oh, the paint underneath is still going to be wet, and it's going to shift and change my colour of my yellow into another colour, which is exactly what it did. So lesson learnt for all of us, I feel. Coming in with my patches of yellow. I don't need too much, just bits. Remember, we are still on the background here. We're not at the featured area of this build yet. So going to come around, pick up some more of that white. Well, I didn't get any yellow in there, did I? There you go. Pick up a bit of that white. Blend it on through. And then I know I had a patch down here. Am I still in shot? I am still in shot. I need a touch more of the yellow. I'm running out, people. I'm running out. That's much more what I want. Now obviously I know where I'm going with this, and you don't, because you can't see inside my wacky imagination, and that's okay. I'm now happy that I've got blended stuff in here. I've got things that look mixed up. I'm going to put this in the bin because otherwise I'm going to be wearing it on everything. So a bit of a clean up on my fingers. Now we've got white on here, which is absolutely fine with me. Clean that bit of white off there, gets dried up. So, time to give it a bit of a thought now. Now, I know, actually let's take that yellow out, I don't need the yellow either. I know that I want to put dots on here, and then I know I want a really dramatic border around this, which is probably where the black will come into it. So, I now need to consider what colour are the dots. Now, there are a couple of things I need to think about here. Yes, I'm going for a warm colour, as in the warm colour of this. However, I want to offset it slightly with a contrasting colour, and I don't mean black. So I originally pulled in this colour, but this colour it's not the right colour. Now I've seen this building, it's not the right colour for what I'm thinking of doing. I could put white onto here. Now, this is sort of, have I got my colour wheel towards me? Now, this is sort of this kind of area. So if we look opposite, the opposite colours or the complementary colours or contrasting colours are teals and greens. So I'm not sure I put green with this, but I wouldn't mind a spot of teal in here. And maybe that's where I put the dots. So not teal, turquoise. So let's have a little look and see what we've got on the turquoise front. I've got that colour. I've got a green blue in this, and I've got a blue green. So I don't mind that actually. That's not a million miles away from that. Curious and curious. So what's it look like? Yeah, I think maybe we'll do that. So look and see what colour this actually is. Maybe this one. I think we're going to go with this one. Right. I'm going to go back to the blending brush this time, and this time I'm going to use the dots. So this is part of Lazy Layers, which is 4 designs in 1 stencil. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to overlay dots over things. So you're going to see me add it over areas that have already got other things, okay? So I know they're going to go, but Ceri, you're covering that up. That's my aim, is to cover stuff up. Now I'm hoping this is going to be opaque enough. If not, I'm going to be coming in with another colour. Yeah, I think that's fine. Right, I want to try and carry that diagonal up slightly. So I'll put that through there. Not that I'm trying to intentionally create a diagonal from the front cover to the back, or I wasn't anyway, but it looks like I am now. Let's bring it across there. So just playing, guys. That's all that I do when I'm creating stuff like this. I'm just playing around with an idea, a concept, an image. Half the time, oh, the sponge has come off. Half the time, I'm just playing around. What's going on with this sponge? Oh, I've torn the backing of it off. Well, that's not good, is it? Right, let me just go in by fingers. I'm not a million miles off doing it anyway. I think I must have been a little vigorous in my rubbing of the paint, and I've taken the backing off the sponge. Right, I think I need a little bit down here of this. Not the perfect way to paint, guys. But you know what? My fingers are the right colour anyway. And I think I want a little bit up here as well, just in this area that I was thinking needed a little help. Right, there you go. Okay, that's far more interesting. Right, this is obviously going in the bin, as is the Velcro it was stuck to. Right, I need to let this dry before I do the next bit, or it's not going to work. So again, sorry for the stop-start, but that's the process, guys. I'm going to get this fully dried with a hairdryer. Then we're going to come in and do the final touches with the black, which I said I wanted to put in here. And then we will look at doing the internal part of this. So, dry to the touch. Things aren't moving around anymore. I'm okay with this, but I hoped these were going to be a bit brighter. So I've got an idea when we finish what I'm about to do next, a way to just lift those slightly, because they look a bit dull to me, and I was hoping they were going to be a bit brighter than that, but they tended to dry a bit flatter, should I say, than I expected. Part of me wonders whether if I'd have picked up the iridescent colour, whether it would have been the right one. So I've got a new sponge, and I've got an, oh, there's another blending tool with a new one on it, so let's just go with that one. So just because the next bit I need to use a blending tool. Now my aim is to use another one of the pieces from Lazy Layers, and it's this one. I can't remember, it was something like something Sleepers, I think, or something like that. And I'm going to use this to add black as almost a border to frame things. Not sure that I'm going to put any down there. I need to think about that as we're doing it. I'm going to use Mars Black, which, knowing me, black goes everywhere. Once I've used it, it'll be all over the place. But it's what makes all of the colours pop. So I think, yeah, I think I'm going to put something under here so I don't get black over my mat, because I've got a feeling that it'll then end up on the underside, which if it does, it's not going to be too much of a problem, but I'd rather control the black as much as I can. So I'm not going to put any water with this because I don't want it very soupy. I'm going to come in with elements of this Lazy Layers, load up my sponge a bit, just doing a circular motion just to build up. I'm going to come in and gently build up black. Now I don't want a huge amount on my sponge because I don't really want to have thick edges and smudging. See, that was what I wanted. I'm going to repeat it around the edges. Do I need it to be exact? Not really. I don't necessarily need it to be a continuous border either. But I am going to build pieces of it by changing the direction of things. You see what I mean? So that will give me the bottom. Maybe just put another couple in there, just to finish that off. Right, turn this upside down. Let's do the other side at the top because I think that'll frame it out quite nicely. Yeah, I might come down the corner a bit there. Sorry, as with a lot of the things I do, I don't hugely plan things. I go by my gut, so I haven't really thought through where things are going to be on here. And that's good. I like that. It gives me the opportunity to change things up as I go along. I like to just pop one or two in there if I can get them in there without it getting too smudgy on me. Right, I think I want something down the sides. How much do I want down the sides? If I just do a little bit of this, try not to get fingerprints all over the... Did I just hit you? Sorry, that was my glasses. And I think just put 2 little bits up there to complete that. See, the black's really brought everything back to the foreground here, which is wonderful. I'll just do this bit here. And that's what I like about stencils, is I can use areas, and just because a stencil is one whole design doesn't mean it has to be one whole design. I'll put a couple of those in there, I feel. Now my question is going to be, do I really want something down here? I'm not sure it's going to go across the ridges. If I was to do this, I'd have to really work down into those. There's grooves in this to help it bend. And if I put black in there, I don't think that's going to work. I'm wondering whether maybe I can just taking a risk here, guys. Just that there's it. Now that's annoyed me. Right, that's annoying because I didn't want that to happen. But you know what? If something like that happens, I was once told by my cake decorating teacher a long time ago, she said, if you can't cover it up, feature it. So, right, we've got that happening there. So let's come in and put more of that somewhere. Come in here. Let's make it look as if it was meant to be. You don't tell anyone, I won't tell anyone. It's called adapting. That's what this is called, just adapting. I'm actually quite pleased I plan to put another piece of something on this. Okay, I'm not hating that now, actually. That might be giving me an idea, though, as to how to deal with part of the spine. Yes, that might work very nicely, Mr. Spine. Thank you. Right. As I said, wasn't planned. Really annoys me that that's not straight, so let's see if I can do something about that. That's straighter. Okay, you saw it here, guys. It's called adaptability. Right, that needs to go dry somewhere. This needs to be out of my way, or else it's going to cause me a problem. Right. So we're somewhere I didn't expect to be, which is fine. I'm going to need that in a minute, aren't I? So let me give my hands a little bit of a wipe while we think. Now, I was complaining that these didn't stand out enough. Well, they really don't stand out enough now that I put black across the top. So my thinking is I'm going to use the good old bubble wrap, which everyone knows I love, and I think I'm going to use white acrylic paint, and I'm going to redot this area. Now the acrylic, the bubble wrap is not going to be the same size or shape or location as the previous dots. They're going to overlay them. That doesn't bother me. I do think what I need to do though is dry off this so I don't pick up any of the black. I just need to get the white sorted. So let's hit that hairdryer again. Okie doke, so that's dried, or dried enough to work on. I must admit, it's not the cover I was planning. Do I hate it? Actually, no, I don't. I quite like the fact that it's not the cover I was planning, because that's not the sort of thing I would normally do. It's very busy for me, but I'm actually not hating it, which some people are probably going to go, oh, okay. Not my choice, but I'm going through, because I think if you keep on going, eventually you'll get to somewhere you either absolutely love it or you absolutely hate it. If you absolutely hate it, white gesso the whole darn thing and start again. Right, I'm going to get the white acrylic paint out again. And I've got myself a piece of bubble wrap. This bubble wrap doesn't feel very full. Like, this bubble wrap feels like it's got more life in it. So I'm going to kind of put the white down, the white acrylic. I'm going to spread it out with a store card, gift card, whatever you want to call this thing. And I'm doing that so that I've got a thin enough area of it to come in, pick up, and then remember I'm going to try and go over roughly the areas I had before. I am loving that. Well, I like bubble wrap marks anyway, so. Right. Come in from the other side. I think I need a bit that goes across the spine. Yeah, this was a good move. We had a bit in the corner. And another bit that went across there. I think I'd like to add just a little bit on the top of the spine. I think I'd like a little bit just by there. Okay, that was a good move. I'm happy with that. Oh, I can see one bit that really will bug me, and that's that little tiny bit there. I know, it's me being a weirdo. But I just want that bit gone. It does not exist anymore except between you and I. Okay, that, as far as I'm concerned, is finished. So, dried now, dry enough for me to work on the other side anyway. I must admit, guys, there was a point in this video when I was filming it with you guys, doing this cover, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I've made a horrible mistake. This is going to be awful. There's no way I'm going to show this to anyone. But you know what? I'm really happy. I actually like the way this turned out. It is a million miles away from this one. That's not a problem. It was going to be a million miles away. I actually don't mind this bit, just correcting a mistake or an error or a learning curve or an opportunity, should we call it. So I think, right, I need to work on the inside now. And I think what I'm going to do is, I've obviously got a huge range of stencils and foam stamps and that. And I thought, you know what? Not everyone has those. So we're going to work with some found items. We're bound to see the bubble wrap again. We'll just work with stuff and see what I can come up with to do the inside. And I think we are going to work with probably colours not too dissimilar than these. Like I have this camel colour that I think would look good on the inside. I wouldn't mind bringing this colour from there through to the middle as well. I feel I need another colour. What's this one? Cobalt blue. Why do I feel that's brighter than I think it is? Actually, no, that might work. Going to have to be a little bit careful because I need this colour in this colour. Let's just go for it. Right, let's have a go and see what we come up. Right, I'm going to put, where's it gone? I'm going to try and keep it centralised on this piece of background to the best of my abilities, because that way there's less likelihood for paint seeping under. The reason I've chosen these three is it wouldn't be a million miles of a mistake if it crept around the corner. The blue maybe, but the other two colours would work through there. Actually, I wonder. Maybe we might add a touch of orange to this as well. I'll pull in a bit of orange just in case I want to warm it up slightly. So let's start the process again, and this one should be a lot quicker because this one is going to be found items or just mark making, which means it's not going to cause me too many issues, and I think we're going to have fun. Right, a bit of the camel colour, or a bit more of the camel colour I think to that. A little bit more of the camel colour just because it's going to be my background. I always like to start with light when it comes to these and work to darker. So just coming in, I'm just going to give this some colour to start with. I'm not overly concerned that it's only going in the spine. I find, if anything, the spine on these are the hardest thing to paint. I wish, in fact, that you could take the strings out of the middle. I mean, you could snip them out and then retie them back in, but that's not what I want to do really. But I wish they were detachable because it would make it a little easier to work with. I'm not exactly turning it around on the background, are we, Griffiths? Right. Now, this is an opaque paint, which means that it's going to cover up anything that's come through from the front. See, I'm doing okay with the back here. Right, I think that's kind of where I'm going. A little bit of this down there. These are great things. I mean, as I said, this cover in the UK from Art from the Heart, which is the shop in which I a shop online. They've got a physical shop. I've never been to the physical shop, but that's the shop I get most of my Tim Holtz, my Dyan Reaveley, my Diana Wakely, all of those supplies come from that store, and it cost me £9.99. So this is a project you could quite easily do. If you've got kids, I suppose you could do this with kids as well. Up to you whether that appeals to you or not, or does that mean you're then going to have to start making or buying inserts for theirs, and who knows. I mean, I make all of my inserts for my Midori covers anyway, so it's not as if I have to worry, but you can buy them. They're not hugely expensive, the Dyan Reaveley version. I think she does a plain version, a lined version. I think there's a version with dots on it, and there's a planner version. If I remember correctly, I mean, I'm not sure, but if you look up Dialog at Art from the... Actually, I might put Art from the Heart in the link as well, in the description box, because I've talked about them so much. Just look up Dyan Reaveley and have a look at her Dialog system, and that's where you'll find most of these. Right, so I've got those in there. I wanted to bring this in. This is going to be quite a brave colour to put in with this lot. This may be a mistake, but we'll learn. It may be a fabulous surprise as well. But actually, it's not bad. I don't mind that. And you know my process by now. We're going to be wiping some white over some of this to blend it all through anyway. Right, this is obviously dead. So, what was the lesson I learned from the other side? If I'm going to put anything light on top of dark, I need to actually make sure it's fully dry. So that's something we need to be aware of. I'm just going to use up the rest of this camel colour just to fill in any areas that I didn't quite catch. Not that it bothers me. Says he going around pedantically filling in all the areas. Okay, I think that's okay. When I get a nice colour, a coating of white on that, I'll be happy with that. Okay, I'm just going to use this cloth to wipe this off because there's a smidgen on there and I don't want to waste my time on that. Right, let's get the hairdryer on this, get this totally dry, and then go over it with some white, which will pull it all back again, which is exactly what I want to do. It's that push and pull that I do with colours. Right, not super duper dry, but definitely dry to the touch. I'm happy with that. Right, I'm going to bring in some of the paint again, the white paint, just to blend over the top. This paint is so nearly out. I'll be glad when this is out. This was a bad idea. I sort of filled a couple of whites into one bottle, and now I don't know which white is which. So I'm just going to come in, blend a few of these areas. I wonder whether I want to put some yellow on here. That might be an idea. I like yellow. I've got it on the front, but I've got a pale yellow that I could actually bring in here as well. That might be an idea in a minute. Right, now I'm not looking for total. I don't mind bits of it being patchy. You know me by now, it's all about the layers. Move that aside and get some in the middle of here. Yeah, I think that'll work. What did I do to the other side? Anything? No, I'm okay with that. Right, where was that yellow? Because I've got an idea that there was this pale yellow that I really liked. There was a pale yellow. What's this called? Matte pastel yellow. Quite like this colour. Who was it by again? Pebio again. Or Pebio, or however they pronounce that name. Right. Liking this because I know it's a really good opaque. Just adding another dimension. Now, a lot of the time I'm choosing colours without giving a reason, and a lot of that is down to the fact that I'm grabbing for colours that I know are either harmonics, are complementaries, are contrast colours, and that just comes through experience, guys. It absolutely comes. Like yellow is a complementary and the contrast to purple. And I think that's just where colour theory comes into it. And I've never learnt colour theory. I picked colour theory up as I go along. It is an important thing to know, though, if you're being an artist, because it doesn't necessarily mean you'll always do great art, but it does mean sometimes that you'll avoid rookie errors, should we say. Right, I'm liking that so far. That's given me roughly what I was looking for. Just give this a little bit of a clean off. I don't want stuff transferring onto the other side. So, right, let's have a look at where we're at. Where's the front? Right, so that's inside the front cover, that's inside the back cover. Now, we said mark making, didn't we? Get some big and bold bubble wrap. Okay, just packaging. I said we were going to try and keep this to stuff that you could find around the house. This is one of them. I don't need a large amount. The more I put on there, the more this is going to pick up, the more I'm going to feel obligated to use it up on here. So again, I'm going to just come in with a store card and smooth this out a bit, just so I'm not picking up huge amounts of it. I'm going to come in. Right, that's our first layer done. Right, stuck together. I've got some sticky mats. That's an idea. I might use my stripes as well later. So sticky mats, thin one, thicker one, and an even bigger one. This is the background. The background can have the bigger stuff. Right. So what colour shall I use now? Now I don't want to keep going darker and darker and darker. I want to make sure that I have something here which will keep it light. Maybe a touch of that yellow. So we're going back to this yellow again, this yellow, cadmium yellow deep hue. Seems to be one of my favourite paints for a while actually, and I'm not unhappy at that because it's a lovely colour paint. Again, going to spread this down. Now, before I do that, there are two sides to this sticky mat. I buy them in my inexpensive store, therefore, putting in drawers, putting on shelves, stuff like this. One side is raised, so if I press that down, I get dots. The other side is flat because of the way it's manufactured, and I will get a lattice. I'm looking for the lattice side. So I'm just going to spread out the yellow again. Now, I don't want a huge amount of this. I just want areas to tap it down, touch it down. See, just subtle, and that's what we're looking for. Tap it down. You may note I am lining it up with the edges because diagonals don't always work for me, guys. So I'm just going to put it smack in the middle of there. I think I want a little bit down by there. There you go. Right, that can go to one side. So I'm liking the direction this is going in. I did want to put some of these lines in. Using corrugated card to put lines in is one of my favourite things to do. I'm uncertain now because if I look at this, I've got lines and I've got lines. So I think I'm not going to do that size line. I'm wondering whether to... If I do this, this is a finer... Well, you can see it's corrugated cardboard. This is a finer line and I think it won't conflict as much with that. And I am going to use white for this bit. Again, doing exactly the same process as before, smearing out the paint so I've got a reasonable coating on my tile. I'm coming in and picking it up, and I think I'd like to do it vertical on here. See, just enough to give it another layer of interest. I want to make sure I don't cross them over, because if I cross them over, what's going to happen is I'll end up making squares, and then I've got two different size squares, which is not my intent. But remember, this is the inside. So, I mean, you could make it the outside. I mean, you could snip one of these elastics and re-thread it from the other direction if you really wanted to. I mean, it's always an option. Right. I'm okay with that. So I think we're down to our last stage now. Now, as we know, I do like my old bubble wrap for dots, and I think it might be the perfect thing for this. And what happens is, I'm thinking you've got larger dots, you've got dots here that are slightly larger. I haven't got smaller dots which would bring in from the front, so that's why. And I'm thinking, because I'm not putting a black border around here, I'm thinking of putting the black dots in here instead. So one more time, using the black, spread it out. I'm always a bit cautious of black. It's one of those colours in my mind that creeps. It ends up in places I don't want it to end up. So I'm going to come in. As I said, I'm going to add bits to the corners. I'm trying to keep it horizontal and vertical because I don't really want diagonals on here. But you can see what I mean by I wasn't going to do the whole thing as a border, but I was definitely going to bring in areas of it. And I'd quite like to put some in the middle. Oh, I can do it right across there, can't I? That's kind of what I was thinking. Just like a little bit more in there. I think I need to think whether I've done that, like whether it's done or not. So my gut instinct is telling me I'm missing a focal point like that. I know you don't think this is a focal point, but there's a bit of a battle for your attention. However, I think it works. This is really subtle, and I think I'm missing this colour, this purpley colour, which was this. And I also think I want to put circles into this. So I'm going to use just inserts from cardboard rolls, and I'm going to put a couple of circles into this just because that's what my gut is telling me I need. I can't explain why I'm thinking that, guys. I just am. So I'm going to spread my paint out with my store card. I'm going to come in. I'm just going to make sure there's paint on here. Now, I'm not looking for a perfect circle. I'm looking for marks. Now, I like my threes, but my threes don't have to be completely on the page. So that's one. I'm going to come in with the smaller circles, just because I think it will look really nice with a couple of smaller ones in it. I think I'd just like one or two in the spine so that if they're seen, they're seen. Okay, I think now we're finished. I think that's fine. I think what's distracting now is the background that I'm working on is really messy. So I'm going to stop the video, fully dry this up, take this center out. I'm going to pull in a nicer background for you to look at, and then I'm going to take some of my inserts. Actually, could I just use the... No, let's just choose other inserts. I've got a couple of spare elastics, and I'm going to show you how to thread the inserts in. Should you not watch the other video, at least you've got all the information here. So bear with, guys. We'll be back for the last time. So here we are. I've taken the covering or the straw off here, and it's finished. So this is the front cover, back cover. This is the inside of the front, the inside of the back. Now, if you wanted, you could change it so that this was the outside cover. You could even take this and just flip it and make it the other way around. The only thing is there's a Ranger logo here. So if you think you're going to be wanting to flip it up the other way, just make part of your design, blank that out, you'll be fine. Also, if you want to make your inside the outside, like, I mean, I like this, but say you wanted this instead, these are held together with a little clip. You can't take that off, but you could snip either side and just rethread it. It's a really easy thread, and then you could just knot this. I mean, some of the Midoris out there are actually knotted anyway. They've not got this little metal grip. So know that you can play around with that. Right, now, this was the closure that we had. I'm just going to use the same closure because it kind of works with what's on the outside anyway. Thread that through. I mean, quite luckily it's got those colours in it. So now this bit is in the other video, so I'm not going to tell you anything different if you're watching this video and you've seen the other one, but just because I think everyone needs to know it right. These are my own planner makes. I make my gel prints into them. This is actually a Dyan Reaveley planner insert. Obviously I use them for planners and art, and I use them for lots of stuff. There are ways that these should or could be threaded. So if I take the center of this planner and I tuck it through this elastic, that's one insert in place. If I take another one, find the center of it. I prefer to use the centers. Some people tend to use just the cover. I find it's more substantial by using the inside. Now, that gives you two journals in there, and the book closes perfectly. As you can see, there you go, plenty of room within there. Dyan gets up to 6 in hers. She might even get 8. I mean, in this one here, I've got 4, which I'm going to show you how to do now. So if you wanted to put 4 in here, you're going to need to buy Midori or Traveler's Notebook elastics, which look like these. You could usually get them in an accessory kit. I'm sure Dyan Reaveley's got them at Art from the Heart. Otherwise, I don't see why you couldn't use elastic bands. I mean, sometimes when my Amazon packaging arrives, it comes with these big elastics around it. These are probably a little more hard wearing, whereas these may need replacing. I can feel already the rubber band is softer, so maybe you need a shorter rubber band. But know that maybe there's something that you maybe don't need to buy. You can just deal with using a rubber band for it. So the way to do this is you find the center of each book, or planner as it is with me. Where is the center? Where's the center gone? Right. And then what you do is you thread the elastic over the two, all the way down to the base. So you've now got them held together by the elastic. Let's do that with the other one, because for this demonstration I'm going to need 2 lots. That's the center of that one. Is that the center of that one? Trying to find the center of Dyan's. It's a little more difficult because hers don't have hand sewing, they've got machine sewing, and the ones I make obviously I sew together. Right, so therefore we've now got 4 of them. So now what you do is you thread the entire traveller's notebook through, so that the elastic is the thing that holds it into the journal. Again, we've got our 2 here, so I'm going to thread 1 all the way through, all the way till it's just that, and then as you can see it closes really nicely on my journals. Now over time this cover will soften and will form more to this. This is a completely new one. This one hasn't been used obviously because we've only just done it, so you'll find in the beginning they will be stiff, but as you can see it still covers it absolutely perfectly. This one I've been using now for about a month maybe, and this one's already beginning to soften up, and eventually this will become almost fabric like. So there you go. So that's the front cover and the back cover. I liked how the spine worked in the end. See what I mean? So once you've done the inside cover and the back cover, it's not as overpowering as it is on the whole thing. Now there is a method of adding another 2 in the middle of here. If you had more elastics, there are Midori or Traveller's Notebook pouches that would slide under here and wrap around one of these for numerous different things. So hopefully for those who requested seeing me do the other cover, you enjoyed that. That's the other cover. This is the original cover. And I think we did okay. I must admit I struggled a bit with the outside of this one, but with this one I already had the colours sorted out because I was being inspired by the colour combination I'd done in July. This one was on the hoof, as we would say. It was done as I was doing it, making decisions as I made it. But I think it was a good lesson in showing you, if your colours have mixed, how to bring them vibrant again. If you make a mistake, feature it. Be prepared to adapt your plans, as Patricia would say. Okay guys, I think that's enough because this video is probably way longer than I intended it to be. So I'm Ceri the Crafter, that's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, bye bye now.